Let's see. So hopefully the other Gretchen, E3 for President, that answer was sufficient for you. Fryab 2, and I guess Freya is the name. She asks, how much food can a crop hold, and would the crop squish if it were squeezed? I'll try to understand the question. Well, you know, I've seen eagles swallow a whole rat, you know, a pretty big rat. You swallow it. And so that filled the crop up pretty good. I don't know if anybody's really tested how much, you know, food depends on the size of the bird too, you know, whether it's a northern bird or a southern bird, how large the animal is. So, and would it squish if it were squeezed? Well, I mean, it does feel a little bit squishy, yeah, if you want to use that term. We don't squeeze the crops that often, though, because, you know, we don't want to do that. But we do feel the crops to see, you know, if a bird, like when we catch a bird, we feel their keel, which is the bone that's in their chest and their breast. And we also will check the crop to see if anything is in there, you know. So, anyways, what is done with the feathers that are found on the ground? I know there is a fine if you pick one up. This is another question from Freya. Yes, Freya, it is against the law to possess eagle feathers. We have to have a permit to possess eagle feathers and take them to a school. You know, we have federal and state permits to do what we do. All the feathers that our birds molt, we have the largest collection of eagles in the United States. So you can imagine with 45 or so eagles, we get a lot of eagle feathers every year during the molt period. And we collect them in boxes, and we have to send those into the federal depository run by the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. And then it's their responsibility to clean them up and make them available to American Indians. We can't directly give a feather to an American Indian. That's not our role. We could actually get in trouble for doing that. And we have, when we're on travels and Challenger loses a feather, an American Indian comes, I can't give it to you, you know. And I hate having to do that, but that's the law, so I have to honor the law. Let's see. Yeah, also the eagle carcasses, we also freeze those when they're, like a bird came in for rehab and it was in such bad shape that it doesn't make it. And we have to put that in a freezer, and we have to turn those carcasses into the federal government too, because some Indians, American Indians, do want body parts in addition to the feathers. And there are very serious fines for shooting, killing, or possessing parts of an eagle. That's right. Kaylee's mom. Kaylee's mom. Oh, Kaylee's mom. Okay, I see. And her name is Debbie. Do they ever get red meat such as raccoons or others? In the wild, they probably get that occasionally. You know, although raccoons can be a big threat to the nest. You know, they can go up there and steal eggs and things. But bald eagles are primarily fish eaters, and they eat other aquatic wildlife. They'll eat anything that's in the aquatic area, in their environment, and the ecosystem around the nest. Turtles, believe it or not, they'll break open the shells and eat the meat in the turtles. Coots, ducks, muskrats, things like that. But probably 80% of the time they'll try for the fish, because that's what they like. Golden eagles, by the way, Debbie, would be more likely to kill mammals, and because they don't eat fish at all. Trident recording, Lee. Lee, someone told me you have a recording studio up there in Michigan next to Yami. You live next door to him. So you need to come to that Michigan game too with Yami. Are you ever going to bring Challenger to a Detroit Tigers game or Red Wings game? Probably only if they invite us. Years ago we did a Detroit Lions game, but we haven't been back to Detroit since then. And it's just a matter of a team getting inspired enough, I guess, to invite us, and being willing enough to make. When we travel and do a game, we have about 5 team members for an outdoors event in a big stadium, so we have to pay for the travel expenses of that team, hotels, transportation, food, and and of course we expect to have some form of a donation to help our cause when we get back to Tennessee. So hopefully, if you can encourage the Detroit Tigers or the Red Wings to invite us, we'll be up there. When they are removed to the hack tower and fledge, who will teach them to hunt like most eagle parents do? I think I answered that before. It's just kind of genetically built into their brain. Some little movie is part of their instinct. So, best answer I can give, and this is from years' experience of hacking eagles in Tennessee. It's amazing. You would think that they would need some parent training on how to hunt, but when an animal, survival of the fittest. You either hunt or you die. And that's why so many of the eaglets that fledge wild nests, at least probably 50% don't make it the first year, because they haven't been able to do that. So. Okay, Nurse Nana 3, Becky. What is the approximate date that the eaglets will be moved to the hack tower? I don't know the date, but how they're looking over the edge of the nest. I'll probably need your all's help. If you see the eaglets start to look over the front side of the nest, I'm not as concerned about the side or looking backwards, because I built the back part of the nest a little bit lower so they could purposely see the trees and some of the other eagles. But when they start looking over the front side, looking down on the park, that's when I'll have a concern. And in Florida, as Gretchen will tell you if she were able to be sitting next to me here, there are a lot of urban eagles in Florida, which means these are eagles who once came from a nest that was close to where people lived, and each generation gets braver and braver to put their nest in somebody's backyard or in a ballpark, like last year when we got those eggs out of that ballpark down in Sarasota, urban eagles. And we try to raise our birds where they're not going to be like that, and I don't want our birds looking over the edge and seeing food delivered by our staff. It's okay for the parents to see it because they're in captivity for life, and we want them to know us, but and not be afraid of us. But the youngsters, we do not want them getting to the point where they see our staff delivering that food down there. Otherwise, they're going to get out into the wild and they're going to be seeking out people for food. Even though they can see some, they might be able to see a little bit or hear a little bit of human activity down below. That's probably similar to what an urban eagle in Florida would be seeing and hearing. But the parents are still bringing the food to those nests, and so the eaglets are identifying with the parent. Now, I hope that answers that question. When will the eaglets be named? Well, I've been so busy I hadn't really got that far yet, but definitely before they're released. And I don't know exactly how I'm going to do it, but I can announce today that at least one of the eaglets that we released this year, I'm going to let our chatterers submit names for, like we did last year. So at least one of the eaglets will be named, drawn from names submitted by the chatters on our Eagle Cam site. So I guess I'm officially announcing that today. So if you want to start submitting names, get them to one of the moderators, and they'll send them to Carolyn and or me, and we'll start compiling a list. But we do need to know your name and where you're from, because if your name gets chosen, okay, so that could be, it may be, well, that's all I'll say about that right now. We can talk more about it later. So what was the question here? Do Indy and Franklin get checkups routinely? Well, we're always eyeballing the birds when we go into the enclosures every day. When the staff goes in there and feeds, their job is to eyeball them, to count them, make sure they're all okay, and nothing. Occasionally we do find an eagle that's having a little bit of problem, and we can go in and get it out of there and help it out, and then eventually put it back in. But every year we have the veterinarians from the University of Tennessee Vet School, Dr. Michael Jones, who's a raptor specialist veterinarian. Because he travels so much, he gets more frequent physicals and more frequent blood work done, because we want to make sure that nothing on the road has affected him. And so far so good. Nothing, all those years, Challenger's been traveling. He's 23 this year, and he's been traveling since he was about 2 years old, I believe. The initial, he wasn't flying then, but we were starting to train him and expose him to people and stuff. So they all get checkups annually. Yeah, and again, the second part of your question was checking for parasites and other lovely things. They do get checks for parasites. In fact, every year when we do the physicals, we take blood work. Their eyes are checked. Their beaks are trimmed if they get too long. And we put some dust on them to kill any parasites that might have, gotten into their feathers. And so they're pretty healthy. Usually, when we check them out, they check out pretty healthy. Once in a while, you might get a bird that's been affected by something or another, but it's not very often. Okay, I'm going to move on here.